Nation, we are back. Let's get it. Yo, salute to everybody already here in the building, whether you're watching on Sanjit's channel, Twitter, my channel. We appreciate you guys. Just make sure you guys hit those thumbs up, man. Keep us in the algorithm on YouTube, and also hit that subscribe button. I know my brother Sanjit just hit that 60K. Man, salute to you, my brother, one of the GOATs of Raider content. I'm trying to hit that 30. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps us out. My brother Sanjit T. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. How you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed, man. Just want to talk some Raider ball, man. It's been pretty slow lately. You know, OTAs are starting to click a little bit, so we have a little bit more to talk about, man. But I've been waiting to pick your brain about this draft class. You know what I mean? I know we've been kind of trying to work behind the scenes on a date and stuff. Right. For those who don't know, we have a podcast that we frequent a ton, me, him, and Wasted. Right. But you know, life always hits us off. You know what I mean? So, but it's just a blessing to be able to do this, man. Real quick, we're gonna start here, man. How do you feel about our 2025 draft class as a whole?
Yeah, man. First and foremost, it's actually been a long time since we've been together. So yes, I am excited that we're finally able to get together. You know, it's crazy because I had a son 7 months ago, and yes, you know, just from that time to now, like, it's been so hectic to do anything live with anyone.
Yeah, man.
But I'm glad that, you know, hopefully we can kind of get on a good schedule and potentially get together.
Yeah, definitely.
But the draft, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, we've been spoiled now, man, for 2 years. You know, and we have not experienced this in a long time.
In a long time.
We're drafting players that it just, you know, we're doing things that just make sense, right? You know, we brought in Christian Wilkins. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some
definitely.
Definitely. Some people will disagree with this, but I still think, you know, he's still one of the best D tackles. It was still a good signing, right? Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, paying guys in free agency it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to spend a lot of money in free agency. Generally speaking, you want to build through the draft, right? Mm-hmm. Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, Jackson Powers Johnson. Those are the type of guys you want to pay, right? Not the guys that are free agents.
Yeah.
Right? I felt like the Raiders did a really good job this year in the draft. The guy that I really liked was Charles Grant. I think a lot of people know how I kind of felt about him.
Yeah.
And I do want to
talk about him a lot even before the draft. Like,
absolutely.
So yes, I remember all the videos, and you were really high on him.
Right. Yeah, and he's a good football player, you know, but he does have to develop. And I feel like that unknown factor of like how good can he actually be? We don't know, right? But like we're for sure gonna find out this year, right?
Definitely. I mean, if you look at this draft class as a whole, like we pretty much fill every void on this roster, and we got a ton of talent. It wasn't a reach thing where it's like, okay, we have to have this player because we have to fill this. No, we filled these voids with really good football players, Sanjit. Right. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, Ashton Genty is going to have this team going from the worst running football team in the NFL to top 5 by himself, barring any God forbid any injuries.
Right.
But I mean, you just look across the board, man. I mean, you got to get Jack Besh. He's a very, very sneaky wide receiver in this class. I was really high on this kid. This was a guy that I had going to the Raiders in round 3, which essentially we moved back twice and kind of, you know, got him there in a second. But this is a guy that played tight end, transitioned to the wide receiver spot, played at LSU, played at a high level at TCU, great blocker, just does everything right. Route running ability. What do you think about Jack Besh? And what do you think he's going to contribute in year 1 with that unit out there with Jacoby and Tucker?
Yeah, you know, when the Raiders drafted Jack Besh, I thought to myself, like, the Raiders had their eyes on this guy, even with that initial 38 pick before we traded back.
Yeah,
the Raiders already feel like, hey, this is the guy that we want.
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard to believe it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe because, Luther Burden was technically on the board at that point. And Ben Johnson drafted him just a pick later.
Yeah.
39. And I look at a guy like Jack Bash and I say, hey, what does this guy really excel at? And, he might not be like super, super fast. You think of like Trey Tucker.
Yeah.
He might not be super explosive. He might not be the best route runner, but he's really, really good at so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
And he has good size, he has good length.
Yeah.
And he kind of reminds me of Jacoby Myers almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost thought to myself, is this like the Jacoby Myers replacement? Right.
I've said it a million times on the show and they killed me for it. Yeah. But I agree. Essentially, like, this is the last year of his deal, Sanjit. Like, we don't know if Jacoby's going to get paid, and he deserves an extension. He's been phenomenal for us, but still, once again, he's a guy that's just coming off of his first 1,000-yard receiving year, and he's going to be 29 years old, I believe, this year. So I think that is that kind of situation. I think he could be a true number one, though. I think Besh can be a number one, but I think Jacoby is that high-end wide receiver too on most rosters.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be one of the things, right? So you look at some of these players and you think about the roles, right? I do like the fact that, coming in, we knew we needed to get a true number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think Jack Bash does have that upside. This guy can be a true number one wide receiver. Dante Thornton, I don't know if he can be a true number one in the general sense, right? But like, he has speed, right? So him and Trey Tucker can play well, I think, on opposite sides of the field.
Yeah, definitely.
Jack Bash brings a whole different skill set. Brock Bowers. If the Raiders guys actually just develop and they're, and I think coaching's a part of it as well.
Definitely.
If these guys just develop, man, like, the Raiders could have a really, really explosive offense.
Yeah. And there's a theme here. It's like they're getting football players, like guys with good character. I had Dante on the show. Amazing kid. Besh, we know his story, and I've never heard a single bad word about him. Ashton Genty, we know what he does on and off the football field. It's like, we just hit this draft out the ballpark, man. What do you think about Darian Porter as well? Our third rounder. This has Pete Carroll written all over him, right, Sanjit?
Yeah, Porter is an interesting player because, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, it's not like Porter in college showed such great tape that you're like, hey, this is a guy you have to have, right? But like, when you pick out certain elements of his tape, you can definitely see a guy and say, okay, that could make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Last year, he was one of the highest graded zone corners, right? Pro Football Focus.
Yep.
And when you do watch this guy in zone coverage specifically, you definitely see what I think Pete Carroll kind of sees in this guy.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is, are we running Patrick Graham's scheme or are we running Pete Carroll?
I know.
Right. And because, like, historically, Patrick Graham brings in like Jacorian Bennett and Jack Jones, like guys that are a little bit smaller, but they're quicker.
Yeah.
We've never really drafted like Eric Stokes and, like Darian Porter, right? Guys.
We did get DCAM last year, and he's
right. He's definitely, I agree with you on that. Definitely. He's one of those guys that definitely has that like athletic freak.
Yeah.
In him. But again, I do think, like, what are the Raiders trying to do? What type of scheme are they going to run? Right. And then even more than that, Pete Carroll coming here and keeping Patrick Graham, is this just like a 1-year thing? And then is Patrick Graham going to essentially be gone next year? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting to about what the Raiders are trying to build out in that secondary.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And even the Dante Thornton pickup, it's like Trey Tucker's on notice at this point. They both do similar things. They're both speed demons, but one is 6'5", 6'6", the other's not, right? And he's coming into year 3, former regime that drafted him. So there's no real ties now in the building with Chip Kelly and Pete. But what do you think about that pickup, man? Because this can be a sneaky draft pick, man. I love also that we went out there and got 3 wide receivers in this class. And we'll talk about Tommy Touchdown here in a second. But what do you think about what this kid can do for us in year 1? I don't think he's a starter immediately. I think this is going to be a situation where there's going to be some looks, with him and Tucker helping take the top off the defense and allowing Brock and those guys to eat up the middle of the football field. But what did you think about that pick initially? Because this is a guy that transferred from Oregon. That Tennessee offense is weird. He didn't get a ton of opportunities, but he led college football in yards per catch, I believe.
Yep.
What do you think about this pickup? And where do you think he fits in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, if you are like, let's say you dominate, right, in college football, you have, let's say, like 1,800 yards and you're playing at Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's not going to translate into the NFL.
Yes.
Right. So if this guy only has, let's say, 600 yards, right, and 35 catches or whatever he ended up having, right, it really doesn't matter, right? Because like the Tennessee offense has not proven to translate into the NFL yet.
No, at all.
And sure, maybe Joe Milton and one of these other quarterbacks ends up being good. Hendon Hooker, I think, was well. Maybe these guys develop and end up being good. But from a skills position, like Jalen Wright came out last year and he was in the best run scheme in all of the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, and he didn't necessarily translate. Yeah. Right. And
you're right. Jalen Hyatt as well, out there with the Giants. I mean, the quarterback situation has been bad, but once again, it hasn't panned out.
Right. And again, just taking a step back, the Tennessee offense is a good college offense. But the one positive with Thornton is when you put this guy's tape on, I mean, this guy catches a screen pass and he's gone. And you see that speed on tape.
Yeah. And he's physical. Like you don't really see a lot of speedsters that are actually physical. He loves the block as well. Like this is a complete football player. The one knock on him was, and we talked about it, was the so-called limited route tree. But when you look at some of the tape at Oregon, it was on full display that it's not really a limited route tree. It's just the Tennessee offense. You know what I mean?
Right. They limited him, obviously.
Yes.
I will also say this, I don't want to jump to conclusions and just say like, hey, Thornton's going to 100% replace Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker has had explosive plays already in the NFL. Thornton hasn't done that in the NFL yet, right? So
agreed.
I'm going to take a step back and see if he can actually like have that success.
Yeah.
But don't overlook the fact that we took Thornton, like 7 picks or like within like 10 picks after we took the other 2 guys in the 3rd round, right? People will say one's 3rd round, one's 4th. There's only a difference of like 10 picks.
Yeah.
That tells you how high the Raiders felt of Thornton, obviously, right? I like the pick, but it's one of those things where because we don't have that much production coming out of college, I want to see this guy actually get out there.
Me too. Right? Me too.
Have you heard anything coming out from him in OTAs? Has he done anything? Like, have you seen or heard?
I know that he had a touchdown the other day. Him and Geno connected in the end zone. I believe it was over Jeremy Chin. I believe and this was after Chin came down with a pick on Geno. He's had a few other plays out there as well. I speak to him frequently, through DM and stuff like that. Yeah. But it sounds like he's having a pretty good early on OTA. He's looking pretty good out there.
So, I mean, I love the size. I love the speed. It's rare that you get guys like that,
Yeah, exactly. But I'm excited about Tucker as well. I'm not trying to make it seem like Dante is going to come in and steal his job because this guy has a quarterback now that can throw the deep ball. So you actually have someone that can get you the ball. So I'm excited to see Trey Tucker this year as well. Let's get to the meat and potatoes right here, man. Round 3 and round 4, not round 3 and round 4. 2 picks back-to-back in round 3. John Spytek said, you know what? I'm going to go get my guys. He spoke about this a lot in the offseason about wanting to build a bully on the offensive line, and he went out and did it. I thought that we reached, Sanjit, and tell me if I'm wrong here, in round 3 with Caleb Rogers. I had him a little later. I had him as like a 5th round grade. I could be wrong. Out of Texas Tech, we took him at 98. This is a guy that played a ton of tackle. He's going to be moving over to guard at the NFL level, and I think that he could be phenomenal there at the guard spot. And then we went and got your guy, Charles Grant. You spoke a little bit about him being a developmental type guy. But 2 questions. Do you see Caleb Rogers potentially being able to steal a spot, one of those guard spots, his rookie season? And do you think that Charles Grant has what it takes to potentially take Colton Miller's spot, down the line? He only has 1 year left on his deal. There's no talks yet of an extension. Can this be our future left tackle?
Yeah, those are some good questions. So first and foremost, Caleb Rogers. I think about when the Raiders took Caleb Rogers, and initially I said, this is kind of a reach as well.
Yeah,
right? I felt the same way. But I do also think that you could draft. If you're gonna just rank guys, right? Like straight up, like, hey, Tyler Booker's the number 1 interior guy.
Yeah,
Caleb Rogers number 9, right? Like you could rank guys and then say we're gonna take Tyler Booker when a certain pick comes around. But you also got to keep in mind, like, does Tyler Booker fit a wide zone or an outside zone scheme the same way Caleb Rogers might? Right? Texas Tech ran a ton of ton of like wide zone concepts. And you saw plays where this guy was legitly able to, reach and cut guys off, reach and pass guys off or overtake guys from the tight ends. The thing with Caleb Rogers, he's a scheme fit, right? So maybe you wait until, the 4th round or the 5th round and see if he'll still be around. But what if he's not around? And then what about if all the other guard options don't necessarily fit your scheme?
Yeah.
So, is it a slight reach? It could be. It probably is. But I also think that from a scheme fit perspective, he's going to fit the scheme well. And I do see him starting. I will start right away. I do think there's a good chance he'll be better than Alex Kappa and Dylan Parham. Obviously, Kappa was, I think, like a former Pro Bowler, but his injury or whatever happened obviously kind of changed that, right?
Yeah.
Dylan Parham's never really developed fully, but I do think Caleb Rogers has more upside than those guys, right?
Agreed.
Now, will he take their jobs this year? That's hard. That's hard to say, because he's a rookie at the end of the day, right? And we don't really know, like, where is he in like his processing? How is he, like, is he going to adjust to the game well, or is it going to take some time?
Yeah. I like that he's mature, though, Sanjay. Like, when you watch him at his pressers, the way he talks, he has a family already. He's very mature. He seems like he eventually down the line, he could be a leader in that locker room. I'm excited about him. Once again, I thought it was a minor reach. But once again, like, if SpyTech knows, we know this, Sanjay, year in and year out with these drafts, there's a run on positions back to back to back to back to back. I don't think that DJ Glaze was the guy last year that they wanted. I think that they've seen a few runs and they're like, whoa, we got to go get a right tackle right now. Mind you, it's panned out for us up to this point. He played fairly well his rookie season, and he may be able to steal that spot in year 2. But I think the same thing. I thought they were like, you know what? Let's not play around here. We got some skill guys. Let's go get a guy now back. And Charles Grant, I was actually shocked that he was there. A lot of people had him as a second-round guy. You know what I mean? So including myself, so to be able to get him in the 3rd was great.
Honestly, I thought there was a chance he'd go in the 1st round.
Yeah. I mean,
the thing with Charles Grant, though, is he didn't have a Senior Bowl, right? He didn't go to the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
I think he had like an injury or whatever ended up happening. If he went to the Senior Bowl, because I don't know if you remember, but he was the first he was the first guy invited to the Senior Bowl. They did this like entire video, and he ended up not going, though, right? And if he was able to, and let's say he had a good Senior Bowl, right? He could have been a top 20 pick. Right? Depending on how the Senior Bowl kind of went out. Tyler Smith a couple years back came out of Tulsa. Yeah, he went to the Senior Bowl. People are like, Tulsa, we don't know if we want to take a guy like that. He went to the Senior Bowl and just dominated. And the Cowboys took him in the 1st round. He's the best guard in the NFL now, right? Yeah. And that's what the Senior Bowl could potentially do for guys that might go to like lower level schools, right? So
Agreed.
The one benefit for the Raiders now is that because Charles Grant didn't go to the Senior Bowl, what if he did? And what if he ended up being a top 15 pick because of it? Yeah. We just got that guy with the 99th overall pick. Yep. Right. So I think there's a lot of upsides, but I also do think, we got to be realistic. This guy might not play this year. Right. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play.
Well, that would be good, though, Sanjay. That's actually good because you have Colton Miller and you don't really essentially need to play him this year, which would be great.
Right. So I don't think Colton Miller plays if he doesn't get an extension. I don't think he's going to play for the Raiders. And I find it hard to believe the Raiders would rather say, hey, we're going to trade Colton Miller and keep DJ Glaze as like, he'd be your number 1 tackle at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find it hard to believe the Raiders would be okay with that. And then Charles Grant, we're going to try to get him to play left tackle over Colton Miller. I think that'd be a huge downgrade, especially early on, right? Maybe he develops into it, but I think that would be a downgrade. I think it'd make more sense to let Charles Grant develop as a right tackle and let him compete with DJ Glaze, right?
I like that.
That's going to be the most, not upside, but like, I think the most improvement the Raiders can make when it comes to the tackles is obviously the right tackle, right? Yeah. Colton Miller's at left tackle. He can still play for another 3-4 years, right?
You got to give him an extension. I mean, look, he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Right. He's a homegrown talent. He spent his whole career with us. He got a lot better as the year progressed last year, coming off that shoulder injury. I think they'll give him a 2-year extension, keep him around the next 3 years. You know what I mean? And then, like you said, if Grant fights that right, takes that right spot, Glaze can kick in the guard if need be.
Absolutely.
So that's a beautiful thing, man. So, but I'll say this, man. I think those were 2 home run picks by SpyTech. Those had his fingerprints all over it. I'm excited about that. Then you get to the other side of the trenches. here, Sanjit, where defensively, let me say this real quick. Tony Pauline, the Sports Keto, put out this article that stated that Christian Wilkins, from what he's hearing, is going to need another surgery. He's probably going to miss the season and so on and so forth. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember the exact, but it started going around Raider Nation like crazy. We started seeing him with a boot on at Max Crosby's podcast, and then he's out there, at involuntary workouts, out there getting it in. So we're like confused. We're like, what's going on? Vinny B put an update out there yesterday saying that, something along the lines of they're worried that, potentially the screw in his foot can break, and that he would need another surgery. I don't know what the exact tweet he put out there, but he said that from what he's hearing, he should be ready to go come August. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Christian Wilkins situation, but we go out there and we get 2 defensive tackles back to back. And I don't find this a coincidence. They're saying, we brought in Adam Butler back, a veteran, on a nice kind of a hometown. That was a steal with Adam Butler. 2 back-to-back deals with him. I thought it was nice the way we brought him back into the fold. But we go take Tonka Hemingway at 135 out of South Carolina. This guy is a versatile guy. He can play on the boundary, kick in. I mean, he's a defensive tackle, by period. But I've seen him play on the outside. Then you go get a guy in JJ, and I always butcher his. How do you say it, Sanjit? Is it Pagis?
I have no idea.
Yeah, JJ Pagis. That's who he's going to be today. Okay. But defensive tackle for Ole Miss, I thought this was actually a steal as well. I mean, the guy can actually line up at fullback and get you some goal line looks. I mean, this was a great pick, back-to-back Tonka and JJ. What do you think about this, and what do you think that means for Christian Wilkins? Do you think that this was a move with him in mind?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, all right? I will never lie to you guys, all right? There was a time when the Raiders drafted Byron Young, defensive tackle out of Alabama, and I hated the pick. I was so critical, and so many people are like, bro, you're way too negative. Stop being negative.
Yeah.
Right? But I was just being honest. I was speaking my truth of how I felt about this guy. Mm-hmm. Right? There was a time we drafted Neil Farrell Jr., and I hated the pick. I said, this guy has no pass rush.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no way he's going to be able to have success. Right? Like, a defensive tackle or defensive line, generally speaking, is the easiest position to be able to evaluate. It's just so easy, right? Because you just know guys that are just shifty, they're just quicker, they just move well, they have good pass rush, they have good hands. It's just very, very, very easy to be able to see guys that are going to be good, guys that aren't. Right? Like Malcolm Koonce was an easy predictor, right? Like you saw him his first preseason, and you said this guy's going to be a superstar potential, right?
Mm-hmm. I watched him at Buffalo, and I'm like, this kid is the real deal. If he can get it together in the ground game, which he's gotten better as time progressed, I'm like, he could be something. But yeah, you're right. You're
right, 100%. I don't necessarily see that with either of these 2 guys that we drafted, right? Okay. Now, obviously, development's a real thing, right? Guys do develop, and it's 100% understandable. Your scheme that you get into obviously also kind of makes a difference. The South Carolina defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway. Mm-hmm. I think he's the better of the 2D tackles, right? Okay. Obviously, I think the other one was picked. What was it, round 6?
No, JJ. Are you talking about JJ?
Yeah, JJ.
Yeah, round 6 at 180. Yeah, so 2 more rounds.
Right. Okay, and then so I think Hemingway has more upside, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing with Hemingway is, where does he actually play? Because in college, when I watched one game, like the day he was drafted, I went and started just watch one entire game. This guy played nose, then he played the 3 technique, then he played defensive end.
Yeah.
5 tech, 7 tech, right? Like this guy was lining up, but like, I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't making plays out there, right? He was just lining up all over the place, right? Like he gets double teamed, he gets washed out of there.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I'm not saying he can't develop, right? Anyone can develop and become a good football player. Ali McNeil is a great example of this. Right?
Yes.
I didn't love him coming out, but he's developed into a really good football player.
Yes.
Right? But with Hemingway, I don't see I don't see the quickness, the shiftiness, I'm going to beat a guy right in front of me. Like I see a guy that kind of stands up, kind of locks in with guys. It's like kind of like Mason Graham, You don't see that explosive, just get after it, Same with JJ, right? I just don't see it. Now with Hemingway, I will say this: he does have a little bit more pass rush moves than JJ does. I think Hemingway had a spin move that I had seen on tape, which you can spin as a D tackle. Like 99% of guys can't spin.
Yeah,
so that already kind of puts you in a different category. So I do hope that he can develop, and like that spin move that I had seen, I hope it's something that it's one of his counters. If he just fine tunes one other move, he might be a productive player, right? So,
yeah.
But I don't love it like the way I love the two guards, right?
Yeah.
Or how I really like the two guys that we got. I don't love those two guys as much.
Okay. Real quick, salute to James. He says, Graphk and Sanjit, hope all is blessed with you guys. Salute to my guy. Let's get the chat involved real fast. Salute also to my guy Savage on becoming a member. I appreciate you, my brother. If you guys want to become a member, hit the link. It's pinned up top. Do you have memberships yet, Sanjit, over there?
Yes.
Okay. You guys make sure to head over there as well. Become a member on Sanjit's channel. He puts out phenomenal content. Like I said before, one of the GOATs of this Raider Nation YouTube stuff, and not even just YouTube in general. I mean, a football mind. So salute to our guys. Salute to Wartown Raider. He says our wide receivers are studs. Chip picked his OSU type wide receiver. Besh, Thornton, Jacoby, Bowers, and Genty, explosive. Salute to my guy. And then salute to my guy with this is a hot take from my guy. And I know that S. Dot always wants to talk about the trenches. This guy is a trenches. This is all he talks about, Sanjit. He says Charles Grant might not ever play. I think he might be a possible bust only because he lifted 19 sets of 225 pounds and will be trampled by the bull rush. We already seen him being put on his ass with the bag. What do you feel about that, Sanjit? Salute to S. Dot.
So first and foremost, I watched that play in practice. It's practice, man. Come on now. To me, it looked like he tripped, right? Maybe he did. To me, it looked like he tripped. In terms of the bench press, right? We got to realize this guy has 35-inch arms.
Yeah.
No offensive tackle that has 35-inch arms is taking that barbell, pushing it as far up to count it as a rep and then bring it back down, right?
Yeah.
If Charles Grant does a 1 rep max, which is way more important, I guarantee he outmaxes guys that are, maybe doing like 25 or 26 on the 225 at the NFL Combine, right?
Yeah.
1 rep max is different than the 225, right? How many ever you have running backs that are hitting like 25, 26,
yeah,
right? And they're not stronger than offensive linemen, right? It's just not what it is.
Yeah.
Long arms, you're not going to put up a lot of bench press reps. The Combine bench press drill is way outdated. I don't know why they even do it still, to be honest.
He also went on to say, I've only seen Charles Grant throw down guys that were maybe 195. No defensive tackles ever on the film. I wasn't impressed. Then he goes on to say also, we should keep our eye on Jared Hufford. He can bench 31 reps and squat 600 pounds. Salute to my guy, S. Dot, on the super chats. We appreciate you, my brother. S. Dot is hilarious, and I always appreciate him pulling up. Let's get to these last 2 picks. This one was pretty interesting. At this point, we're in round 6. Haven't taken the quarterback yet. Shedeur falling down the board. We passed on him numerous times, and we don't have to talk about that. You know what I mean? Because I think it's been talked about ad nauseum at this point. But we wait until round 6, and we get a quarterback. But do we get a quarterback? We go ahead and take Tommy Mellott out of Montana State. This is a guy that is converting the wide receiver at the next level. He can play special teams at a high clip. This is a lot of people are saying this is a Julian Edelman-esque type move here in round 6 at 213. What do you think about Tommy Mellott in that pickup?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see is he going to translate or not. He's a 6th-round pick, right? So it's not like pick him in the 1st round.
Yeah.
I could say I like the pick, right? Because I do like the pick, but is he going to be, is he going to be a top 5 wide receiver? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But as long as he's productive, right? He's a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
Right? Can he return punts? If he could give us what Hunter Renfrow gave us, it's the perfect pick.
Perfect.
Right?
I agree.
It would be interesting though if he ever comes in and plays like that Joker role, maybe gets into the backfield and
I can see that.
He snaps, he throws the ball. It would be interesting if we actually utilize him in that instance.
So wildcat looks and
right, or if he's just a pure slot wide receiver.
Yeah. But I like that Spytech and company said too that they were hoping that he just went under the radar. When they took him there in the 6th round, they were like, we were hoping nobody knew who he was. That's why they weren't hyping him up. There was not a lot of talk about Tommy Mellott in the Raiders during the whole draft process. So, but it sounded like they were really high on him. We took an actual quarterback here in round 6. Cam Miller at 215 out of North Dakota State. The guy's a proven winner. I got to keep it real, Sanjit. I covered the Shrine Bowl at practice all week. He was probably my least favorite quarterback out there. I loved watching Kyle McCord. There's a few other guys out there. Brady, Missouri, You know, he looked fairly well out there at the Shrine Bowl practice week. But I just wasn't that high on Cam Miller. I understand it's the Shrine. It's essentially an all-star game. And, you know, there wasn't a ton of chemistry between him and the center out there. And these are guys he's never played with, right? So I understand that they're not going to have, you know, a ton of chemistry out there immediately. These are guys that he's never had played it down with. Right. But I was shocked that we waited this late to take one. And, you know, Tom Brady, round 6 out of Michigan, round 6, Cam Miller, North Dakota State. Come to find out, Tom is really high on him. Right. What is your thoughts on the kid that, you know, went out there and was the offensive player of the year, Missouri Valley Football Conference? I mean, what do you think about this? He had 3,200 yards, 33 touchdowns, 4 picks. This guy will come in and compete for that backup spot with Aiden. What do you think about that pickup?
Yeah, you know, I believe this. I don't know if this is fact or not, but, you know, we had already heard that, hey, Pete Carroll's going to be here for like 2 or 3 years, and then he's going to retire, and one of the assistant coaches will take over.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that coach is going to be Chip Kelly. Right? Okay. I would find it hard to believe it's anyone other than Chip Kelly. There's a good chance Cam Miller is handpicked by Chip Kelly, right? Okay. There's a good chance that he's the guy they're going to try to develop, right? Aiden O'Connell was the guy that Josh McDaniels wanted to develop.
Agreed.
I'm pretty sure this is the guy that our new offense coordinator wants to develop, right? I would find it hard to – now, maybe Aiden O'Connell stays here another year. Maybe another 2 years, but like I would find it hard to believe that the Raiders are not 100% in on Cam Miller. Now I don't know if he'll ever start and if that's what they think, but you know, when the Niners drafted Brock Purdy, what did everybody think, right? Where people were like, hey, you know, whatever,
he's not going to make this roster, Mr. Irrelevant,
right? Exactly. Yeah. You know, same thing with Tom Brady. Even guys like Dak Prescott, who's like the 3rd, 4th round pick, right? Like, people weren't like, hey, this is the guy that's going to be our quarterback for the next 15 years, right? And I'm not saying that that's going to happen with Cam Miller.
But we see it. We've seen it before.
Right, we've seen it before, right? And I will always say this. I think Chip Kelly runs a good offense, right? He's had enough. You know, he's been in college with Oregon, the Niners, the Eagles. He went back to college, right? A couple different teams. He's installed
UCLA, won a natty with Ohio State. I mean, yes.
100%. And you know, he's installed an offense and he's had success getting people to understand the concept. And I know it sounds stupid, but when we hired Luke Getsy, I said this is the shittiest hire we've made because he doesn't know how to install an offense.
Yes.
He had shown us just 2 years before with the Bears for 2 straight years that he did not know how to install an offense.
Yeah.
Right? And guys are confused. That's not going to happen with Chip Kelly, right? And then I say all that because, you know, when you have a good offensive coordinator, when you have a good system, any quarterback can thrive. Bro, if Jimmy G can go to the Super Bowl, with Kyle Shanahan, and you know, like I watch Jimmy G, like, you know, a good coach can get the best out of a quarterback.
Definitely.
Right? Also, I learned this a couple months ago. You know, Jared Goff is 0-16 without Sean McVay and Ben Johnson. Right, those are probably the 2 best offensive-minded coaches in the NFL right now.
Yep,
he's 0-16 without those 2 guys. It's crazy.
Wow.
Right? So, you know, just kind of thinking in mind, your play caller matters a lot, right? So, maybe Cam Miller ends up being the next Tom Brady. Maybe he's the next. You know, I don't know.
Were you shocked that Chip didn't take Will Howard, a guy that just coming off of a national title together in Ohio State, was available most of the draft? I think, when did he go, in the 6th or 7th to Pittsburgh, I believe? Yeah. But he was available, and we took Cam Miller. I mean, were you kind of shocked that wasn't the guy? Because I mean, that was clearly, it's like that there's a match there.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he didn't, but you also got to realize, like, he was only there for 1 year. And I think I believe he transferred in.
Kansas.
Right? He transferred in.
KU.
Right. Yeah. So he transferred in. You know, maybe Chip Kelly didn't love him as a quarterback. Maybe Chip Kelly feels like, hey, I want something else. Yeah. I know they obviously won the championship, but like, you know, if Chip Kelly and Will Howard were at, like, you know, UCLA, they weren't going to win the championship. They won because of the fact that Ohio State was a great team, right?
Yeah. And also Cam Miller's athletic. Will Howard's not known to be an athletic guy. Yes, he can use his legs if need be, but Cam Miller, that's one thing he is. He's an athletic dude. Then were you kind of shocked that we waited until the 7th round to get a linebacker? I mean, it seems as though we just really never value that position too much. I know we went and got a Landon Roberts, which I love to pick up in free agency, bring in Devin White on a prove it deal. But round 7, 222, we take a guy out of Minnesota, Cody Lindenberg. a guy that I think honestly kind of does some of the same things that Tommy Eichenberg does.
Right.
It's some of the same things that some of these other guys do. He can play the run, doesn't play great in coverage. I mean, what'd you think of the pickup here?
Yeah, linebacker is the hardest position, I think, to value, right? Not value, evaluate. I think this. I think, you know, Robert Saleh always produced the best linebackers, right?
Yeah.
I think, what's the other coach's name? I forget. The guy that helped Ray Lewis, helped Patrick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? I forget the guy. Singletary. Like Singletary.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, like, I think, you know, I think great coaches produce great players, right? Like at certain positions.
Yes.
And, you know, you could take a linebacker in the 7th round. You can take one in the 2nd round. You might get the same production out of those guys, right? In fact, if you just look at what's happened to the linebacker position in the NFL, they're generally not valued very highly, right? Yeah. Like, I think in the first 3 rounds, we had like 6 guys get drafted, right? I think the first linebacker was the 32nd overall pick. I think the Eagles drafted a guy, right?
Yep. Traded up for him.
And I think we have like 1 or 2 more in the 2nd round.
Yep. The kid out of UCLA, Carson, went, and then I believe, was it Demetrius Knight?
I think he was the 3rd guy. Oh, the Niners took a guy in the 3rd round.
Okay.
I guarantee you, man, that guy the Niners took is going to be better than all the other guys.
Oh, because look where he's going
over there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, to me, like Tommy Eichenberg, and you know, he had the interception in practice the other day, right?
Yeah. You love to hear it too, man. You want to hear his name. You know,
and you know, he's smart, and I always say this, man. If you're a smart player, you can have success. You can be the most unathletic player. If you're smart, right? You see faster. You can read, and you know, being athletic is great because then you can do things just that much quicker. Like your body can actually do it. But like, you know, we'll see what ends up happening. You know, Amari Burney, we cut him, right? And he was a 5th round pick, right? So like,
6th out of Florida, right?
Right.
Well, either way, you're in that ballpark.
He was like a late round guy. You know,
Ziegler went and got him, Sanjit, which is funny because he's assistant GM with Tennessee now, and he went and got the guy that he drafted, which is funny.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. It is kind of crazy. Like, you know, you could take a guy later on that's a linebacker and he'll have more success than the guy you take early. I'm just glad that the Raiders didn't. You know, like the Lions took a linebacker, what was like the 16th overall pick a couple years ago in the 1st round. Yeah. What has he really done? Like, you know,
I like Jack. I think he's played well for them, but once again, I mean, well, if they didn't hit that draft completely out the ballpark, they'd be hurt. Gibbs, it worked out, you know what I mean? But that was a weird 1st round. I'm like, what is Detroit doing? They took a running back and a linebacker back. It worked for him, but no, I agree with you.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a good pick, right? I think Lindenberg's a good pick. Hopefully he develops into something. We need our linebackers to step up, man. Our linebacker room's like, it's old. You know, like the top guys are like super, super old. And we have a bunch of young guys. Someone has to step up, man.
Ferrari, man. I'm hoping Amari Gainer steps up.
He looks good. Like, he looks pretty well built, you know?
Bro, we went to the Cincinnati game. Me and Stu were on the sideline. And we were like, bruh, like he looks like an action figure. Like real talk. I was like, yo, like I don't remember. I seen him playing at Florida State, seen him playing at North Carolina. I just didn't know he was so built like that. The dude is kind of crazy, man. Salute to JT. 2 of my favorites, chopping it up. S&G. Salute to my guy, JT, man. And also salute to JT. Amari Gainer, let's jack. There you go. Should have got Kyle McCord. I'm a huge Kyle McCord guy. I know a lot of people were on his ass about transferring from Ohio State and going out to Syracuse, where you had a monster career with Syracuse. Had a crazy year last year, him and Aronde and company. But yeah, man, I would have loved to have Kyle McCord. But hey, they took Cam Miller, hoping that it works out. I think Sanjit hit the nail on the head there. That was a Chip Kelly situation where, hey, later on down the line, you know, I have potentially my guy in the building, which would actually be cool. Salute to Andy as well. He says we missed on all our favorite mid-round edge rushers: Josiah Stewart, Ashton Gillette, and Jack Sawyer. Salute to my guy, Andy, in the building. Always love to see my bro. Make sure you guys get those thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button if you guys are not subscribed yet. As a whole, what do you grade this draft if you had to, Sanjit?
It's hard. It's hard to put a grade out there, you know. Best, you know, like B plus, maybe, right? B plus.
Okay.
I love the Ashton Genty pick.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I didn't love the Jack Bech pick, as I like it more on the other side of it, like now, but I didn't love it when we first made the pick, right?
Yeah.
Darian Porter, right? Like these guys have tremendous upside, right?
Yes.
Like I put it at a B plus, but there's also a chance this ends up being our best draft in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Guys just developed and are coached well.
How many starters do you think we have in year one with these guys? If you had to be a betting man and you're putting the odds up, who do you have? I mean, we got at least 2 with Ashton Jensen. I think Besh is going to be a starter for us. Is there any other guy that you think is still one of those spots?
Well, I heard that Darian Porter's starting right now in camp. I don't know if that'll stick, but apparently he's taking the first team snaps. But again, it's OTAs, right? And I don't know which other corner might be hurt, right? Like, I don't know which guy is exactly hurt.
Jacorian's coming back from a season-ending injury.
Right. So, right. And then you also may look at it like, hey, we want Darian Porter to get ready sooner rather than later. So let's put him in the mix. Let's make him get ready, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a betting man, outside those first 2 guys, I think the only other guy that'll maybe not start week 1, but at some point he'll take over is going to be Caleb Rogers. I think Rogers ends up starting at some point. And outside that, I don't know if anyone else can start. Now, guys will play, of course. Yeah. Right? I think there's a chance Grant might end up jumping in at guard at some point. He might, you want him to obviously develop, let him play a little bit. Porter, even Tommy Eichenberg. I'm sorry, Lindenberg might end up being out there, right? So yeah, there's definitely guys that I think will end up playing, but like starting, like full-time starters, is probably just 2. I think probably just 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with 2, but once again, Porter could steal one of those spots. Stokes has not been. He's been injured year in and year out with Green Bay. Out of that rookie season, he didn't really. There's not a lot to what he's brought to the table up to this point. Right. I know that Pete Carroll loves Stokes. He's bragged about him and talked about him a ton. But I think that it's a 1-year deal. It's inexpensive. It's kind of a low risk, high reward type situation. If Porter beats him out, great, because you have a rookie, on a 4-year deal that is going to be your future there. And once again, he is a guy, the same thing as a Richard Sherman situation at Stanford, where former wide receiver, converted to corner, didn't have a ton of experience there. And now look at him. He'll be a future Hall of Famer. So hopefully Pete Carroll hits the nail on the head with that one as well. Salute to David. He says, my 2 goats get me through the offseason. I appreciate it. Salute to my guy, David V. And salute to the default pitcher. I'm going to put this out there real quick. I can't speak too much about it, but I'm going to say this. Everybody that's worried about the Woodson Whiskey, do not be worried. We are still up and running. Everything's still active. WoodsonWhiskey.com. Go support our people, Charles, and all of our guys. Once a Raider, always a Raider. There's nothing going on with the whiskey. It's still going to be available. I know a lot of people are freaking out because of his likeness with, being a minority owner with the Cleveland Browns now. Do not worry about it. WoodsonWhiskey.com. I just got the phone right now, literally with the guys, and I was like, should I still promote? Because I want to make sure the nation, because I know everybody was kind of worried about it. But Woodson Whiskey still available. So salute to our guy, and once again, congratulations on a boss move, being a minority owner out there with the Cleveland Browns. That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah. What's your thoughts? I know you talked briefly about it. The situation with Christian Wilkins. Everybody can. It's so easy to say, "Oh, another free agency bust." Like you said, right? Like great teams don't spend a ton of money in free agency. They just don't. Like, that's not how you build this thing. You build it from the foundation. You go into the draft. That's where you attack and you build these teams. But I thought that Tom Telesco did a great job. He got him early. It was a position of need. Christian Wilkins has not been this all-pro player up to that point, right? I'm not going to act like he was just taking the league by storm at the defensive tackle position, but he was a really good defensive tackle. And nobody's seen this injury coming, Sanjit. Right. It's like we can always say he's another free agency bust. It's not that. I mean, the deal that he got, it was market. I think that pretty much was the market value for him. 100%. You know what I mean? It's a former regime, Tom Telesco. Pete Carroll and these guys have nothing to do with going out to get Christian Wilkins. It sucks to see that he may potentially have a setback here, but I mean, do you think that we have some guys there that could potentially step in? And if so, who, if he's not ready to go come week 1? Yeah,
first and foremost, I want to say a couple things. The injury happened, I believe, because Adam Butler jumped on top of this guy, right? So it's really, really, really unfortunate.
Freak injury.
Right, because it's not like, like he's just injury prone, just running around, he gets hurt, Yeah. It was the weight, right? It's too much weight. So it is unfortunate because, Tony Pelini put this report out. I think it was like at the end of March, right? Yeah. Put this report out there, and he basically said, "Hey, the foot hasn't healed properly, and there's still a chance. There's a small possibility that Wilkins has to then essentially go out there and get another surgery, right? Get it corrected. and he could miss a significant portion of the upcoming season.
Yes.
Now, if he reported this in March, then Wilkins should have got that surgery in March, right? He should have got that at that point. But the fact he hasn't gotten it tells me he doesn't plan to get it.
Yes.
He plans to play through it essentially, right?
Yeah.
Now, the unfortunate part for us is, Christian Wilkins is a really, really, really good football player, right? He's still a top 7 defensive tackle.
For sure.
Right. I think, was it the Patriots or the Panthers? One of those teams signed Milton Williams this offseason.
Patriots.
And they paid him like $28 million. That's a huge ripoff. It's a terrible contract.
Agreed.
Right? Really, really, really bad contract. Milton Williams is not even that good football player.
No.
Right.
Especially you got Christian Barmore and you got those other guys. Like that didn't really make any sense for me.
Right. It doesn't make sense to me either. Right. I think, maybe they'll look at it like his best football's in front of him, whatever. We'll see if it works out for him. Right.
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins, if he's healthy, he will work out. It's not like this is a guy where it's like, is he even that good? Right. Who was the guy we signed a couple of years ago? I think he was from the Chicago Bears, maybe. Or maybe he went to the Bears after he was with the Raiders. I forget his name, but
nose tackle?
He's a defensive tackle. He got paid pretty well too by us. I think we paid him a pretty good amount of money. Someone will say it at some point.
Yeah.
But we pay these guys that aren't good. Like, that's my point. He was not good. It's like paying.
It's about Bilal Nichols, right?
Nichols, perfect. Nichols.
Yes.
And I forget what the contract was.
Arizona just paid him a nice chunk of change too to go back over there and play for them.
Right. But he's not that good, right? So like, I don't understand why people pay these type of guys the type of money when they're not that good.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at it like this, right? So the Raiders at one point would pay Corey Littleton and Nichols all this money to come over to the Raiders. Christian Wilkins is not that type of signing.
No,
you don't have to pay guys anymore just to get them to come over here, right? Just 10 minutes ago, you asked me, hey, who's going to start for the Raiders out of this draft class? And I said there's probably going to be 2 guys. That's not a bad thing. That's because the Raiders are actually a good football team.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least we're trending in the right direction.
When healthy, we got some studs.
Right. 100%. Right. So like our team's actually getting better. Right. And again, Christian Wilkins is a good football player. So hopefully he develops. Hopefully he ends up. Hopefully he comes back healthy.
Yes.
Right. And he's 100% healthy as like the season comes along. And I didn't see the Vinny B report that you're talking about that he has a screw that could potentially break.
Yes.
But that's really, 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 really unfortunate, right? Because like not having him really does impact this defensive line.
Yes.
Right? I know we have Adam Butler, but Adam Butler is not on Christian Wilkins' level.
No,
right?
not at all.
In the tier between the 2 guys.
Yeah.
And outside of Adam Butler and Christian Wilkins, I don't see any other defensive tackle on this roster that's actually going to make an impact. That like I would feel confident in today to say, yeah, we can 100% rely on this guy.
Especially the impact that Wilkins can have on this team.
Absolutely. $30 million, right?
Yeah.
$30 million is he's getting paid that for a reason, right?
Yeah.
We can't replace that.
What's your thoughts on Geno? This is how long we have not done the show.
I know it's crazy. I don't think we went live since like the season ended, even before that.
Yeah. But it's kind of crazy. We move a 3rd round pick. Seattle moves off of him. Pete gets his guy. He has a connection with Seattle and knows the GM very well. There was a video that went viral of them talking on the airplane. And not like shortly after that, Geno Smith is a Raider. Right. But what's your thoughts of Geno Smith as a quarterback? And PFF had him ranked the 10th best quarterback going into football, this year in 2025. He's coming off of a down season where he had 20 touchdowns, 15 picks, somewhere around there, 21 and 15. But he had 4,300 yards passing. He was like 5th or 6th in the league or something like that. He did throw a ton of picks because they didn't have any real ground game. Their offensive line was bad.
Yeah.
But what is your thoughts on Geno Smith and what are your expectations for him this season?
I'm going to just be honest, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When we first made the trade, when it first became like, hey, the Raiders are bringing this guy in, I didn't love it, right? Don't get me wrong, right? It is an upgrade, right? Like if you're putting Jimmy G, if you're putting like Gardner Minshew and then on the other end is Geno Smith. Geno Smith's the best quarterback among that group.
Clearly, yes.
But I almost feel like, would it have been smarter for the Raiders to say, hey, let's get a rookie quarterback last year. Let's make a harder push to get a quarterback last year, or like tank better, man, and get Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I just look at it like the Raiders, you could have gotten yourself your franchise guy, because although Geno Smith might be a top 10 quarterback, right? Like he might, and I'm not saying like the number one quarterback, but like let's say Geno Smith as the 10th best quarterback.
He's a 10 to 12 range quarterback.
Right. And let's say that's what you get out of him, which is great. But how long is he going to keep doing that for?
Yeah.
We're going to have him for like 2-3 years.
He's 34.
Right. So like he's not going to be our quarterback forever, right? So I'm not, to me, I do hope Cam Miller's a developmental guy that develops, and I hope that's the plan. But I just felt like, like the teams that have had the most success, right? Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, these guys are all drafted by those teams.
Yeah.
Right. And, even the up and coming quarterbacks, right? Like Bo Nix was really good for the Broncos. These guys drafted this guy,
Yeah. Drake May. Yeah.
I just feel like, and I'm cool with Geno Smith, right? Because like if we do go all in to win a Super Bowl, right? Like, and what I mean by that is the Raiders really feel like, hey, we have $40 million left. We're going to be smart, but we're going to get aggressive, right? We're going to trade for Jalen Ramsey. We're going to trade. We're going to bring in Amari Cooper and get the receiving room a little bit better, right? If they actually fully do go all in, then Geno Smith makes the most sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Are we actually doing that though? I don't 100% know. Right.
Yeah. It was funny. I'm with you. I like the move. I said the same thing. I just didn't love the move. I understand the connection. It makes total sense, right? I mean, Pete Carroll, he has a couple years left in the tank, and he's going to go out with his guy. He's going to go get his guy, which makes total sense. He's somebody that he respects, he trusts. He's a great locker room guy, and at times he plays really, really, really good football. And then at times, he makes mistakes and then he's also had his issues in the red zone. So, and that's something we need to clean up, because we've had our struggles there as well. Even though I think Ashton Jinty's going to help a lot there. 100%. I even think Raheem Mostert, a guy that's played well in goal line situations, can potentially help us as the running back too. But and then you got Brock and a ton of other talent. But I agree with you, man. I like the move. I think that, they were trying to swing big with Matthew Stafford. It didn't work. He stayed, and it makes total sense. I mean, why uproot your family to go play a year or two tops in Las Vegas when you already are established out there, and you have one of the greatest offensive minds with Sean McVay? I didn't really. It didn't make a ton of sense for me to ever that Stafford would be a Raider. Right. It just didn't. You know what I mean? Like, but I agree with you, man. I think that Geno was a move that like the move a lot. Don't love the move at all, and hopefully it works out. And hopefully this O-line protects him a lot more than Seattle did. And I think that our O-line is definitely underrated, Sanjit. Many people talk bad about this O-line. I actually like this O-line. They got better as the year progressed. It was a struggle to run the football last year. It was just a struggle all across the board offensively. You know what I mean? But I agree with you, man. I think, well, let me ask you this. What's the ceiling with Geno? Do you think we can get to a playoff? I mean, he's been to the playoffs once in his career. I believe it was in 2022 where they got blown out by the Niners. That Niners team was phenomenal, though. I mean, so it's not a knock to him or Pete Carroll, but he was the most improved player that year, was a Pro Bowler. What's the expectations right now in year one with Geno in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, if you went the rookie quarterback route, right, this year would be a wash.
Yes, agreed.
Next year, who knows, right? Year 3, we might be all depressed. This guy sucks,
Yeah.
At least with Geno Smith, we're gonna make the playoffs, right?
Ooh, talk, Sanjit.
There's no way. There's no way you do not make the playoffs with Geno Smith as your quarterback, right? Look at what he did with the Seahawks, and I know he got worse, right, from 3 years ago to 2 years ago to last year was his first year. But last year was a new coach, right? New offensive scheme, new coach, new everything.
Yeah.
And the one thing with Geno is he still won a ton of games. They were right there, right? And that was with the Seahawks went into last year, and they had an offensive line set, like he's going to be the 5 guys.
Yeah.
4 of those 5, all 5 of those guys missed time at some point, but 4 of the 5 missed most of the season.
Yeah.
Right. And their right tackle comes back at the end of the season. He's coming back from a really bad knee injury. They just weren't healthy on the offensive line, but they were still pretty close to getting into the playoffs. I think our offensive line is underrated. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Right. I think our offensive line this year, if Colton Miller plays to how he played at the end of last season, if Jackson Powers-Johnson does become the best center in the NFL, which I think he does this season, if DJ Glaze takes a year or 2 leap, right, our guard positions are going to be perfectly fine, right? We have Caleb Rogers, we have Alex Kappa, we have Dylan Parham,
Jordan Meredith.
One of those guys, or 2 of those guys will figure those two positions out.
Agreed.
The offensive line could actually be a good offensive line unit. Right? There are no excuses this year for the Raiders not to be good.
I agree.
Investments in now, we might be a year out still from being that because we do have rookies that we might be relying on.
Yeah.
But we got to make the playoffs. There's just no way. I think we make the playoffs this year, right? I think
I love it. I love it.
I think Geno Smith means you're trying to win the Super Bowl, right? Like I find it hard to believe that you're not trying.
Talk that shit, Sanjit.
Now, are we gonna do it though? That's the other side.
Yeah. Yo, real quick, let me get these supers in. We got a few more questions, a few more topics, and then we're gonna get out of here. Salute to S. Dot. Hey, Sanjit, did you happen to see which hand I think it's Laki Tassi put on the ground to determine which side, even though it doesn't really matter because Tassi and JPJ double team is totally unfair. You've seen that he was over there playing offense the other day. We signed him as a defensive tackle.
Guard. I think I saw a play. He was at right guard. So
hey, it's gonna be interesting. That's a big dude, bro. The international portal player.
He's athletic too. So
yeah, rugby guy, right?
Right.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Salute, Graphk and Sanjit. Raiders. My guy Louis G, man, appreciate you on the $2 special, man. Sanjit, give me 5 players that you are most excited to see this season. 5 players.
Easy, man. That's super easy. So first and foremost, Jackson Powers-Johnson.
Yes.
You know, I don't say this lightly when I say this. I think Jackson Powers-Johnson is one of the greatest centers like in NFL history. Like I do think he's that great.
Just stay healthy, JPJ.
Just has to stay healthy, and then he has to play 15 years, right?
Yes.
But like Richie Incognito was like he killed people out there, you know.
Yeah.
Jackson Powers-Johnson has that in his tape, so he's the guy that I'm one of the 5. Ashton Genty easily, right? Because bro, what he did in college last year was crazy, right?
Insanity.
So if he can do that for the Raiders, man, we're gonna be in a really, really good spot. Geno Smith obviously is our quarterback. You know, we're stuck with him for at least 2 years. We could move out of it after a year. We'll take a dead cap hit. There's a couple of some offensive lineman guys that I want to see as well, right? So I want to see DJ Glaze in year 2.
Me too.
I do think DJ Glaze in year 2 is going to be one of those things where we're going to know right away too, right? Like within the first 3 games, we will know if this guy's going to be our future or if he's not.
Yes.
Right? And you know, like DJ Glaze isn't like Thayer Munford, right? Like when I watched Thayer Munford his rookie year, I was like, this guy's not going to be a good starting.
You were never on the Munford. I was smoking the hopium with Munford. The whole time you were like, Grav, I don't know what you're seeing, brother. but go ahead, my bad.
You can see it. You see it with tackles. DJ Glaze he could actually be a good tackle. We'll see, right?
Yeah.
The thing is you got to be able to move well, right? And DJ Glaze is an okay mover, but that's why I think Charles Grant has a lot of potential at tackles because he's an elite mover, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's anyone that moves better than him that came out this year, right?
Okay.
I'm also excited to watch some defensive guys. I want to see Jacorian Bennett and Isaiah Polamau. I want to see both of those guys. A lot of people are saying Isaiah Polamau is going to be our starting free safety this year. The thing with Isaiah Polamau, and I say this again, not like, just saying a guy's good or not. Like he was not that good last year. All right. I'm telling you, Isaiah Polamau had a lot of really, really poor angles that he took.
Agreed.
In the open space, he wasn't able to bring people down, right? Like people ran away from him. There were plays last year that were designed where it was like cover 2. Jack Jones was playing off and Jack Jones was jumping it, right? Like it was designed that he's going to jump it. But it was a double move by the receiver as a pump fake, throw it over the top. And it was Isaiah Polamau's responsibility to get there.
Yeah.
Whoa, right? There was at least 2 of those plays last year that I had seen from him.
Okay.
Right. And not that I don't think Isaiah Polamau could be a good player, but I'm talking specifically as a free safety, right?
Yes.
Free safeties have to run sideline to sideline.
Agreed.
They got to run deep. And, Jeremy Chin is going to be the strong safety. If Isaiah Polamau was a strong safety, I think he'd be a great strong safety. Right? Put him in the box. Put him at linebacker, line up on the line of scrimmage. He'd be a great player for that role. But as a free safety, I'm a little concerned with that.
So if you have to start, is it Trey? Is it Trey Taylor?
Trey Taylor could potentially be the guy, right? Lonnie Johnson, I think, is another guy where, again, I don't know like the fits, where he would play. But I think he had an interception as well in OTAs as well, right? Which is kind of crazy, man. Both of our new safeties each had an interception.
Yeah.
OTAs. I don't know if Geno's just throwing it to these guys on purpose. Although I think Lonnie's interception might have been on Aiden. Don't quote me.
Lonnie's was on Aiden. Geno threw. Tommy Eichenberg Chin, and who else came down with one? There was one more because Gino threw 3, Aiden threw 1.
I forget.
Yeah, I forgot who it was as well. But interesting though. Can he play in the slot for us this year? Do you think? I mean, I remember at USC, their starting slot guy went down, and he played a ton in the slot over at USC. Can he give us some reps there? Because I mean, right now you're looking at potentially Harper versus Darnay Holmes, or maybe another guy just flashes at camp and he ends up being the guy. Like, can you see him potentially having some reps there in the slot?
Yeah, he can play the slot, but when you put Isaiah Polamau in the slot,
Chris Smith, it was
Chris Smith. That's who it was. That's who had that last name. When you put Isaiah Polamau in the slot, what happens is you're playing what's called a big nickel, right? Or you're essentially getting big, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah Polamau is not going to play press coverage on Hunter Renfrow and stick with Hunter Renfrow, right? So if you're playing zone coverage, then it doesn't matter, right? In that instance, it won't matter. And I do think he can play that position, but is he like a true nickel corner in the general senses? Probably not. Yeah. But if we're running Pete Carroll's famous cover 3 style of defense, he can definitely play in the slot at that point, right? In fact, both Isaiah Polamau and Jeremy Chin in the slots, right, would probably be beneficial for the Raiders, to be honest.
Chin has over 1,000 reps, I believe like 1,100 reps in the slot in his NFL career. So he's done it. And Trey's played a ton of it at Air Force. I think Melo Dotson played some in the slot as well at Kansas, right? I mean, he's another guy I'm very high on, UDFA. I'm excited about Melo Dotson, man. I got a chance to watch him at the Shrine, him and Kobe Bryant. He's a fun player to watch. But I mean, and because I think we're in trouble if Darnay Holmes starts in the slot. That's no knock to him. I don't see it, Sanjit. I just don't.
Do you know, is he taking first team reps right now?
I don't. I have not reached out about that yet. I got to start. It's so early. It's like, I think they're out there just trying to throw things together and kind of get these guys some camaraderie built right now before they really start attacking it. You know what I mean?
Another guy I really want to watch this year is Malcolm Koonce. And I say that because, those 9 games that he had, like he basically produced just as much as Max Crosby did.
Yep.
Right. So imagine if we have another Max Crosby out there on the defensive line. And it sucks that he got hurt last year, so we didn't get to see it. Yeah. But like, who's the guy I was like most excited about going into even last year,
Yeah. And Max is saying that now. He said that's been his best running mate in his career, and that he's excited. He's been in the building first with them, out last with them. Koonce he's definitely ready to go. He's ready to go. But once again, he has not been playing yet. He's been, I believe they had him on the sideline working with the trainer, just trying to make sure he's right before they get in the training camp. So I think that's the right move, Sanjit, is just be patient with him. That's a nasty injury he's coming off of, but it looks like he's going to be ready to go. So
yeah, just let him be 100% healthy. It's going to take him a little bit of time. We'll see what ends up happening.
The Moke says, Sanjit, what do you think of Genty? Do you also think he's rocked up and thick? Pause, Demokes. That's in the words of Brock Bowers. He's rocked up and thick. What's your thoughts, man?
I saw him next to Jackson Powers Johnson in that video.
Yeah.
He looks small, like compared to Jackson Powers Johnson, but like he is ripped. And you could just tell this guy's built really, really well. And most running backs are. I'm sure you noticed it at the Shrine too, right?
Oh yeah.
When I went to the Hula Bowl, bro, I saw like these running backs, and they're like they're all like short. They're all like the most ripped guys you would see, and they're just all built differently.
Yeah.
He's built differently for sure.
Definitely. One more question for my guy, Sanjit, man. What are your thoughts on, do you think this roster, what we have right now, the existing roster, is this what it is? Or do you think we're looking for those post June 1st cuts, potentially a trade for Ramsey? Do you think our corner group is already solidified? I mean, Ramsey's going to be available. There was a random report out today about the Raiders reached out to New Orleans. I don't know how real it was about Olave. I know that there's been a lot of talk of Olave potentially moving on from New Orleans. Any free agents available? You mentioned Amari Cooper. Like, is this the team that we're running with going into week 1? Or do you think we're going to try and clean up post-June, maybe make a move for Ramsey? And if so, would you make a move for him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the Raiders' final roster going into this season, right? I do think that our secondary specifically, I do think the secondary is a lot better than the credit that it's going to get.
Agreed.
Specifically because I think we have a lot of players, right? And they're going to figure it out with those guys, right? It's not like we don't have guys that could be good football players, right? Like, there's a lot of upside, there's a lot of potential, right? Jalen Ramsey, I'd love to be all in on him, right? But does he make you that much better where it's like the difference between a Super Bowl and not, right? Or
at this point in his career.
Right, at this point. And, now, what if he plays free safety, though, right? And then now you're feeling a need that you need.
Yeah.
Right? And then in that instance, I'd be all in on it, right? But there's still a lot of productive players out there, I don't know how great these guys still are. Like, is Amari Cooper still a great route runner? I don't know, right? He did produce 2 years ago. But is he still good enough, right? Like, can he come to the Raiders? Because, we also got to keep in mind, like, if you bring in Jalen Ramsey, you're paying him, what, $20, $25 million? Like, he's going to want to be one of the highest paid players at that position.
Agreed.
You're going to have to guarantee him, like, 3 years, right? He's not going to just come here for a 1-year contract. No. He's not that type of player.
Well, he has one of the richest contracts in the NFL right now. So if you're trading for him, he's going to be well compensated regardless.
Right. I think what would make sense for the Raiders is try to find guys that are going to be cheap, right? And again, the longer you wait at this point, Amari Cooper's cap is only coming downwards.
Yeah.
Right. Guys like Jadeveon Clowney, he's only coming downwards. CJ Mosley, Justin Simmons, Stephon Gilmore, right?
Yeah.
These guys are only getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And, I don't know the exact number that the Raiders have, 30, 40, 50, whatever we have in terms of the cap space. I would add some of those guys, right? Because it makes you better. And, they're also experienced guys. Some of them have playoff experience. Some of them, maybe just come into the building to help some of the younger guys develop a little bit. We're not going to add Jamar Chase or Brock Bowers through free agency, but we can add role players. Yeah. Right? You can get better, and you can get better.
I like what 13 said too. James Bradbury, he took a year off with the injury out there in Philadelphia. His only Pro Bowl was under Patrick Graham with the Giants, I believe, in 2020, 2021, something like that. So, and he's 31 years old. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad to add a guy that's coming off of a championship. He didn't play. That they said that he was a very vocal leader in that locker room that helped a lot of those young guys. I wouldn't be mad about bringing in the James Bradbury. At this point, I think we do the same thing that Philly did, was trying to convert him as a safety. At this point, I don't see him giving you being a starter for you at the corner spot, especially coming off that injury.
Right. Again, I think the Raiders just try to add a couple more players that you could feel like, hey, they can actually have an impact. I don't know if the Raiders necessarily need a running back at this point, but like, Jamal Williams, depending on where Raheem Mostert's at, right? Jamal Williams could be a productive player, right? Maybe Nick Chubb, maybe not. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, right? Yeah. Again, the Raiders can always get better. And if you're 100% all in and you want to win, right, you're like, hey, we want to win a Super Bowl this year, you got to bring some more guys in, right? Just got to get a little bit better. And I'll also just kind of throw this out there, the $40 million that we have in cap, there's also a chance the Raiders feel like, hey, we're putting the perception out there that we are going all in. But really, John Spytek wants to be conservative and build for the future, and he just wants to take that $40 million into next year.
Roll it over.
Those extensions are coming.
Yeah.
He knows guys are going to come up here. He knows that some of the guys Brock Bowers, Jackson, those guys are going to get top 5 money. Now, tight ends don't get paid all that much, thankfully. Same with centers, relative tackles or wide receivers, or quarterbacks.
Well, thank God we got the 5th-year option, Sanjit, on Brock. So we can pick that up. That'll be the easiest. Salute to DDT, man, gifting 10 OLV Raiders Network memberships. My brother, I appreciate you, man. Salute to all the new members in the building because of my guy, AP. Salute to the 1,100 people here with us, man. Make sure you guys, this is a midday matinee. Everybody's at work, driving home. It's good to see over 1,000 people with us here in the building. Salute to Ty as well. Salute Graphk. Salute Sanjit, a.k.a. Professor Lyman. Love your breakdowns, bro. My question is, if Wilkins can play, who would be can't play, who would be a good replacement? We talked about that, Ty. I think Sanjit pretty much said, I don't know if we have that replacement on this roster right now, which is kind of, So it's kind of a little nerve-wracking thinking about that. Right. Yeah. But, one of those rooks are going to have to step up. Right. They're going to have to step up, or guess what? Tyree Wilson's going to have to play a little bit more at the defensive back.
That could 100% make sense.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So salute to Ty on the $5 special. Salute to One Up being a member for 41 months. Appreciate you, brother. Okay, I got one more, man. I promise you we're going to get out of here. let me say this. What's the biggest concerns for you with this team? Like this offseason, we improved the front office. You know, Brady has some say now with the personnel. Spy Tech, I'm telling you, Sanjit, man, when I covered the Shrine, we just hired Pete Carroll, and then we shortly after, I believe, we got Spy Tech before, brought in Pete Carroll, but the talk of the town there was Spy Tech. I was rated out. Everybody there was maybe one or two people that mentioned Pete Carroll to me. Everybody kept saying, you guys have a stud in John Spy Tech. You bring him in, Pete Carroll, he's won every place that he's coached at. You bring in Dealin, one of my guys from Notre Dame. He is going to be great for that running back group as the running backs coach. Graham's back. I think we just did everything right. Took care of Max. He's healthy now. He's ready to go. But what are some concerns that you're looking at? Chip Kelly as well, making him the highest paid offensive coordinator, $6 million per year. That lets you know that they have him in mind for the future potentially as the head coach. I've seen some Brennan Carroll talk, Pete's son, but let him be the offensive line coach for now. Some concerns. What's your biggest concerns going into this season?
That's a tough one. I have two concerns. So I'm a little bit more worried about the wide receivers. Like, are they explosive enough? Like, can they separate? Geno Smith, one of the things he's had one of the things he's been able to do with the Seahawks is he's had DK Metcalf, he's had Tyler Lockett, and he throws it 40, 50 yards, and these guys go get the ball.
Yeah.
Right? He throws jump balls to DK Metcalf, and he brings it down. Now, I know we have Brock Bowers, but Geno Smith prefers to throw it to the outside, not to the inside, right? Mm-hmm. This past season, he threw a lot of interceptions, right? Yep. A lot of those came up because he was trying to throw the ball over the middle of the field.
Yep.
Right. So one of the concerns I have is, are our wide receivers good enough? Now, again, Brock Bowers, phenomenal player, right? He'll be able to do his thing. But are the actual outside wide receivers good enough?
Yeah.
Right. Can they beat Prescott? Like, Jacoby Myers not, doesn't have insane speed. So, like, is he going to out jump corners? And is so I just have concerns with the wide receivers. And then Geno can connect with those guys.
Okay.
Right? And then on the other side of it, I think the second and third level of the defense kind of concerns me. But generally speaking, are we too slow on defense? Are we too old? Right? Jeremy Chinn's great around the line of scrimmage, but you put this guy 30 yards in space, he's not as great.
Yeah,
right?
Agree.
Isaiah Pola-Mao, I've already spoken about. He's not the quickest, right? Then you got Devin White, who's well past his prime. Let's just be honest, man.
Yeah.
Devin White, the name is up here, but the play's down over here somewhere,
Yeah.
Landon Roberts hasn't really ever done anything. And he's older too, right? Like,
he's won 2 championships with the Patriots. That lets you know how old he is.
Right. I think Robert Spillane is younger today than Landon Roberts.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things where, like, are we too old on defense? Second and third levels. I'm not. The NFL is not like as explosive as it was like 4 years ago, right? It's kind of starting to slow down. Teams are playing a lot of cover 2 defenses, so like throw it over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Are we too slow? Right? It's just something that kind of concerns me.
Okay. Who wins that running back 3 spot?
Running back 3 is interesting because, if you asked me last year, at the end of the year, I would have said, hey, Sincere McCormick's like RB2 at the very worst, right? Because he looked good.
Yeah,
he looked good. And,
he did.
I forget the injury he had. It wasn't an ACL, right? I think it was something else.
What was this? Was it his ankle?
It was something, but it wasn't like an ACL, right?
I forgot. No.
I think Zamir White gets cut this right after this year because
it's an ankle injury. Yeah,
there's just not enough roster spots. I think Sincere McCormick is going to be RB3. I think Dylan Lave will be RB4. I think Lave is going to get cut sooner rather than later as well, unless he really shows himself. Right? I wouldn't be surprised. Not this year, but like at the end of next year, I can see Lave getting cut. Right?
Okay.
Like, unless he really shows something.
Special teams, maybe maybe
that'll be his value. He'll be a special teams guy for most of his rookie until we cut him.
Yeah.
Right. But the fact that we have Ashton Genty, he's your RB1, and I would think Mostert's going to be your RB2.
Yeah. And Pete just said, Sanjit, that they're trying to work Ashton in as that third down back as well, trying to get him, together in the passing game. He said that at the presser the other day. So they have, look, he wants his workhorse. He wants his workhorse.
Right.
So that spells kind of disaster for the likes of my guy. And I love Dylan, you know what I mean? But he's a third down back at this point, and he's fighting for that spot. And, you know, and then Zamir, like you said, I don't know how he's going to be on this roster. I don't.
It's crazy, man, because I look at this running back room this year, Genty, Moser, and then I think McCormick's RB3. Those three guys are all better than, the guy we had going into last year as our starter.
Yes.
Even our second guy we had last year, right? Like between Zamir and Madison last year.
Yep.
I think our three guys this year are better. And obviously, Sincere McCormick, I know he was there last year, but no one says Sincere McCormick's going to be a guy for the Raiders, right? Like he was like the third or fourth option. Maybe you did. You might have, but a lot of people did not.
That was an unofficial agent, man.
Right. But like our running back room is so much better this year. And, it was not the wrong decision to move off of Josh Jacobs, right? Yeah. The wrong decision was not investing in the position altogether.
Agreed.
Right. But to be fair to Tom Telesco, looking back at last year's draft, it's good that he didn't invest in it because that draft sucks.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving, there's no other good running backs that came out from that class.
Right? And who had their hands in that pot? John Spytek.
That's a really good point. Now, Spytek keeps telling that story too, about he gets in the open field and he makes the guy miss. So I think Irving had told Spytek that when they met, like, hey, you put me in the open field, no one's going to tackle me.
Yeah.
Definitely an interesting story, and no one better than Ashton Genty at that either, right?
Yeah. John Jones, it's to be determined, my brother. We don't know what Tyree Wilson. I think he got better. I think we can both agree he improved last season, but he's been a defensive end. Like that's who he's supposed to be. He plays some defensive tackle for us, and I would love to see some NASCAR packages this season with Tyree. In the interior. I don't know if he's a good enough athlete to get it done at the defensive tackle position, though. Sanjay, I could be wrong. At this point, I think he's a rotational defensive end, and that's it. And it's year 3. You know what year 3 means. This is the year where it's like you either are him or you're not. Right. I mean, do you think he could be a good tackle, or maybe am I bugging?
That's a tough question. I don't think he can. There was a consensus after his rookie year where people are like, it wasn't everybody saying it. I'm sure you know this. There were a lot of people that were saying, hey, Tyree Wilson was better at D tackle than he was at D end. So keep him at D tackle, right? He might have made more plays at D tackle because he's just closer to the quarterback. Right? So the bull rush guys needs to be a little bit closer, right? I think his best value is on the edge.
Yes.
Right. And I think the thing with Tyree Wilson is, with Trayvon Walker as an example, I said Trayvon Walker was a bust. Right? I said that I think the last time you and I were on a show. That was wrong, right? That is not correct. Trayvon Walker's a good football player. Right? Now, the way he wins, he doesn't have like all the different pass rush moves that Max Crosby has, but he's disruptive off the edge.
Yes.
Right? And Tyree Wilson's never going to be like a swimmer, a double hand swiper, and a guy that has this crazy hezzy move. He's never going to do that, right? But he could overpower offensive tackles. He's longer and taller than a lot of offensive tackles. So, I think the thing with Tyree is he'll never disrupt a play where it's like quick game, right?
Yeah.
A 1-step drop by a quarterback, 3-step drop, he'll never impact those plays. But if it's a 5 or 7-step drop, he's going to take his guy back into the quarterback, right? He's going to make it tough. So, if you have a good defense around Tyree's a guy that'll always kind of push his guy back into the quarterback. Max might not always get to the quarterback, right? Max might play the run a little bit. He might be looking at the backfield. Now, he'll eventually get there, but, Tyree will just slowly get to the quarterback, I don't know. It's hard to say. Is Tyree Wilson a bust, right? He's kind of trending towards, was he the worst top 10, of the 12 or 13 guys drafted in that class? Is he the worst of those guys, It's just, it sucks. It's really unfortunate, but I do hope he develops this year.
Yeah.
This could be his year.
Is there any UDFAs that you're keeping an eye on that we brought in? Because I love Zachary Franklin, the kid that we brought in from Illinois. I think that he could be a guy that could potentially steal one of those last roster wide receiver spots. Ja Joyner, I'm hearing really good things about the edge rusher out of Minnesota. I mentioned Mello Dotson. Is there any other guys that you're keeping an eye on that you watch really closely?
Yeah, Hufford was a guy that I liked. So he's definitely one of those guys. There was a couple other guys that I watched, and none of them like really flashed to me. I did not watch Joyner's tape, so I might have to go check his tape out.
Okay.
But I watched. You see, he was on Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Minnesota had this other edge guy that was at the Hula Bowl. I think he was one of the highest paid UDFAs too. I forget his name, but he kind of reminds me of Max Crosby. Not from like pass rush, but I forget his name. He's a Minnesota edge player. Minnesota has some good defensive players, man. Like, we took a guy in the 7th round. They have Joyner, obviously he's gonna have a chance. This other guy got paid. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. UDFAs are always kind of hard to value, right? Because a lot of these guys are being brought in because they have like certain traits, right? Like Hufford, I think someone mentioned earlier.
Yep,
he's one of the strongest guys out there, right? So like that's something you can bring in and potentially develop, right?
Yeah.
Traits is always, I think, the best way for UDFAs, right?
Yeah.
Always want to bring in guys with traits because the potential is there, right? Amari Dinger, for example, is that guys,
Mello Dotson's a ball hawk. There's a ton that he can work on in his game, but he's a guy that had a ton of interceptions. Yeah. So
okay. Yep. I watched his tape a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he had a ton of picks, a ton of pick sixes.
Yeah.
But once again, there's a reason why he was where he was. I thought he was if at the bare minimum, a late round guy. I was actually shocked to see him be a UDFA. But from what I've been told and from some things I've heard, it wasn't a matter of football. It was more of maturation, just being mature enough to be able to get. And I'm not saying he's a bad kid at all, but it seems like there's other things sometimes. Like, can he get less distracted by Instagram and some other things like that, and actually attack football and treat this as a career? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're talking about Tyree Wilson, right?
Oh, I was talking about Mello Dotson.
Oh, to Dotson. I'll go ahead. Yeah. It's interesting because with Dotson, you said he had how many interceptions?
Did he have 6 last season? I think he had 6.
Okay. It's crazy because, like, you would think, like, hey, you get all these interceptions, you get your hands on the ball this many times, teams are going to want that. Right? It doesn't always, like.
5 last season. 5.
Not necessarily, like, it doesn't translate. Like, Amik Robertson, for example, got his hands on the ball a lot in college. He was pretty good, right? He's a pretty productive football player. So hopefully Dotson, the fact that he got his hands on the ball so much, hopefully that's, like, the skills that he has and he could potentially bring over to the Raiders.
Yeah. No potential.
There are a lot of good secondary players on our team, and there are a lot of potential. I shouldn't say good, but there's a lot of upside with some of these guys. We'll see where they kind of develops into.
If Jacorian's healthy and can take that next step, I have a feeling he can be a stud for us. He definitely can.
He looked really, really good.
Yeah.
And, do you remember when Jacorian he's a rookie and he was starting in camp? Do you remember that time? And, like, people are like, why the hell is this guy? Like, are we that bad? And then he didn't end up starting when the first game of the season came around.
Yeah.
Someone else ended up starting. But, like, we see why he was getting those reps, So hopefully the fact that the rookie this year, Darian Porter, hopefully the fact that he's getting some of those same reps.
Yeah.
Hopefully that means, he could be the next Corian or at least on that path,
And hopefully DeCameron, 6'1", he can take that next step this upcoming season. He struggled last year because he got thrown into the fire, but this is a guy that is a tackler. He's definitely a great tackler. He's great in coverage. He's not a ball hawk. I don't think he's ever had a pick ever, like even at the collegiate level. But, hopefully he can step it up this year because he's a Pete Carroll-esque. He has that build and, that as well, man. Sanjit, man, my brother, man. I know you got the kids. I know you got some things that you need to do, man. We got to do these more often, brother. We got to find a way. These are fun. You know what I mean? Let everybody know real quick, man, what you got going on and plug away, bro. Let everybody know from my side of things. If they don't know who you are, which I don't know why they want it, let them know what you got going on, brother.
Yeah, man. Obviously, I covered the Raiders just like you,
Yes, sir.
But we do definitely have to get together more. Obviously, it's been hard because I have a young my son's 7 months old, and I think the last time we went live was literally like right before he was born.
Yep.
I don't think I ever actually even went live after after he was born. So, but if you guys don't follow me, man, Sanjit T, Google it. My stuff comes up. It'll be like I'm mostly on Twitter, although I stay off of social media now. I don't know why.
I get it, bro. You have to, bro.
I've lost the love for Twitter. I don't know why, man. It's just not. It just doesn't. I don't know. Like,
there's so many bots and there's so much weird stuff on there, man. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's been crazy. Some people were actually saying this in the comments, like, "What's up with your room? You know, like, is that is that like a studio or something?" This room is not set up yet. It's kind of a mess. I tried fixing it up right before we went live.
Yeah, we were talking about it behind the scenes.
Yeah, I still gotta figure everything out, man. We just moved recently, so we'll figure it out.
Hey, real quick, and I don't want to, because we've had great energy on this show, but I want to give, if you guys can, do me a favor, run over to Honcho's channel and flood the comment section with some love. Our guy, Raider Honcho, has one of the best channels on YouTube as well. He just lost his mother, man, and he's hurting right now. And if we can, go flood his comment section, his Twitter, Instagram, and just let him know how much we love him and how much we appreciate him, man. Make sure to send some love to our guy Honcho, man. That is a difficult pill to swallow.
It's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, it's nasty, man. I didn't want to public, I contacted him behind the scenes. I didn't make it a social media thing. But if you guys can, man, go flood their comment section and let them know. Thank you, CGR. He put in the comment section. Go over there and let them know how much we respect him and how much, he's in our prayers right now, because that's big, man. But Sanjit, my brother, let's set something up again behind the scenes here soon. Training camp's right around the corner. We're definitely have a lot more to talk about. My brother, man, once again, one of the greatest in the game. Salute to you and salute to everything that you're doing. And once again, congratulations. I think when did you hit the 60K mark?
Maybe like a month ago.
Talk that 60K shit, Sanjit.
Yeah.
Let everybody know the other channel to follow.
The Football Scout. Check it out. I do non-Raider stuff on that one. Cover like O-line, D-line, mostly just trench stuff. That's my love for football. It's trenches. So
yeah, man. Well, I love it, my brother. Anything else on the way out?
We're good, man. I appreciate it.
My dog, man. As always, salute to everybody here in the building, whether you're watching on Sanjit's channel, my channel, Twitter. Get those thumbs up, you guys. I say wipe them feet. That means get those likes up and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate the chat. You guys made this a great show. Salute to my brother Sanjit. And we will be back. St. Jude show Sunday. We're doing a fundraiser. I got a Max Crosby signed jersey in the other room. I have a Zeus signed jersey. I have some other ones we're going to be giving away. If you guys can, pull up Sunday for the stream, the St. Jude's Marathon. Other than that, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We are out.
That's what I'm talking about.